When I walk in, every ancestor move. Every cell in my body got an ancient groove. I ain't searching for truth, I embody the proof. You look at me, you see the lineage. Every obstacle shift when I rise in them.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Ratwan Hill, and with me I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ambassador of Peace. And if you don't know who he is by now, you might want to ask ChatGPT, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, man, how you doing this lovely Wednesday?
I'm kind of confused this lovely Wednesday. I just saw that the president has set up a $1.8 billion slush fund to apparently compensate individuals who were the victims of lawfare. At least that I'm confused, man. I don't know what's going on, what's happening to my America. I just don't know.
Yes, sir. Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about that a little bit. So these individuals, they were found guilty, Now, ordinarily, I know that there were some instances and cases of people who were wrongfully convicted, and then when they got out, they received a settlement for being wrongfully convicted. But to my understanding,
but before we go to the individual level, and I think that there needs to be some scrutiny on the individual level and those behaviors and the like. Although I see that as symptom management, what I want to go back to, excuse me, is the root. I want to go back to the root cause of this systemic behavior, this systematic behavior that we're seeing coming out of this administration that needs to be checked. And as I look at this fund, it's the construct of it is crazy. I mean, the way I understand it, there's no congressional oversight, right? The 5 individual panel members get to make the subjective decision in terms of how they disperse the money. And once it's dispersed, there's no checks and balances, right? It's like the PPP loans, right? Free money for everyone. And the problem that I have with it is the administration's liberal interpretation of their authority under the rule of law. And so under the authority that they have for that fund, which was designed to pay out judgments against the United States, there is no correlation between the use of this fund and the purpose that they're trying to use it for. That's the beginning consideration. There is no precedence. There's no justification for utilizing the fund in the way that it's being proposed to be used. That's the first challenge that one has. Then the second challenge that one has is with the amount of money that is being taken out of the tax coffers, right? That were as a part of the appropriation process, right, were designed by Congress to go another direction, that's being unilaterally redirected by this administration in this area. To me, something about that just doesn't smell right, right? It just doesn't smell right when you have this additional attempt to circumvent our rule of law. Right, we are a society that's based on the rule of law. If you don't have respect for the rule of law at the highest office in the land, how do we expect the average citizens to respect our judiciary, to respect our legal system? And as you were describing in this particular instance or situation, and don't get me wrong, right? I've got family members who fractured a few laws and they've run afoul of the law, and they've made mistakes and they had to pay their dues, right? And so in the instance of the January Sixers, let's call them that, right? These are men and women that made errors, right? They made an error and they had an opportunity before our legal system, right? Utilizing an agreed upon approach that we have, where these individuals had their case heard by a jury of their peers.
Mhm.
And a jury of their peers under our judicial system found the actions that they took to be a violation of existing law. And in that instance, just like with my family members and your family members, those people were found guilty and they were responsible for that law, for breaking that law. They were responsible for paying a price. But when you come in and summarily overwrite or waive, you summarily just waive the conviction of all of those people, it is sending a message to the people that follow the laws. And then when you follow that up with a campaign like the one that we see right now to put a $1.8 billion cash reward in their hands, you are sending the wrong message to the people of these United States of America. And, this may not be unconstitutional, but I will tell you in no uncertain terms, it damn sure is unpatriotic.
And that was a question I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, was that a form of taxation without representation? But essentially, because it was a ruling in the court that essentially that essentially was separated from constitutionality. Is that?
Hey man, there's shenanigans going on, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we are at a critical inflection point where we have to have urgent, right, engagement in the system. Our system has been hijacked. I can't say that any more directly. And we have to, if we want to save this republic, this constitutional republic, we've got to engage. And so what we're doing right now is we are asking our only line of defense, right, which are the governors, right? That's why Congress was created as the first branch, right, under Article 1 of the Constitution. They are our line of defense. We're asking our Congress to demonstrate the fact that you have a patriotic commitment, that you are committed to the Constitution of these United States of America, that you have not been seduced by the cult of personality. And we need you to show us that indication, because we are going to use that to determine whether or not you get another term in office, right? And so what we've done is we've set up a simple opportunity for you to demonstrate your patriotic commitment. This is in a benign fashion. That's not left. It's not right. Right. We very simply need you to go out and co-sponsor the Contract with Our Veterans Act. Right. What's the bill number, Mr. Hill? I don't remember the bill number. It's HR
for Contract Our Veterans Act.
Yes.
I am not 100% sure off the
That's
top.
okay.
The Contract Our Veterans Act and Veteran Member Business Loan Act.
Well, can you look up both of those numbers while I'm finishing this discussion? Because we need our Congress, that's our senators and our House of Representative members, to go out and co-sponsor this bill. We need you to show your face in the place so that you can send a signal to us, the veteran community, that you are 100% with the Constitution. You're 100% with the patriots of this nation. And if you do that, right, we will reward you by throwing our support behind you during this midterm election. And ignorance is no excuse in this particular instance. So we're going to be contacting you ourselves. Your constituents are going to be contacting you as a result of what we're doing in this particular instance or situation. And therefore, you need to show your face in the place if you hope to survive the cult of personality during the upcoming midterm election. And to my veterans out there, right, we need to fully and wholly engage right now at this point. Our nation is at a crisis, right? We have a threat, right, to the constitutional republic that we enjoy. We have a threat to the security of this nation that is both external and internal. And we need to put that threat down right now. And the only way we're going to do that is by engaging. So don't watch this program and go and surf over to the next one without doing something. We need you to take that URL that you see moving across the screen. We need you to go out there. We need you to engage. We need you to send your Congress member, your senator, a letter. We need you to pick up the phone and we need you to call them, because we need them to over-index in showing us that they have our interest, right? That they're doing the people's business, right? So that we can stop some of these shenanigans. And again, as Mr. Hill has often said, we're not left, we're not right, we're patriotic, right? We're what's in the best interest of these United States. And for us, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And so when we see these efforts to violate the Constitution get more and more overt and aggressive, and then they get, the icing or cherry on the top of the cake is a slush fund where there's no accountability, we true patriots have to stand up and say something, and we need you to engage today.
Yes, sir. And that bill number is HR 7534, which is Contract Our Veterans Act. And then the other bill is HR 507, which is the Veteran Member Business Loan Act. Yes,
and
sir.
it's important for us to engage in this process to get our Congress to perform, because right now, so few people really understand how our civic process works that people are distracted by things that don't matter, right? Just because your congressman sponsors a bill doesn't mean that he's done anything for your community or his constituents, right? When that bill ultimately gets mirrored on the Senate side of the equation and it goes through conference and it gets signed into a law that goes to the president's desk for signature, that's when things are effective. What a lot of people don't recognize is that a lot of these bills get sponsored and they never see the light of day. Like, for example, we recently had an action finally in the Senate where there was a vote on a war powers resolution to curtail the president's action. Right. That vote happened yesterday. This is probably the first you're hearing about it. Right. You didn't hear anything in the popular media about it. And the reason you haven't heard anything in the popular media about it is because that bill has got a long way to go before it becomes a law. Right. And a bill that is going to curtail the president's war powers action in this makeup of Congress that requires the president's signature. Right. Where the president can veto would need a supermajority in the Senate to override the president's veto. So what I'm trying to get you to recognize is that we, the people, need to get a better understanding of how our civic process works so that we understand when and how to engage the process. And once we get that higher understanding of the civic process, you'll have a better appreciation for the above the rim gymnastics that we're asking you to participate in, right? This is how we make a constitutional republic work for the people. This is how we engage the process. If we want something to happen, we've got to let our elected officials know, not just at the ballot box, but during their term. And so here is an example of us reaching into the process and saying, listen, our men and women who bore the battle, we're talking about our veteranpreneurs, they have deserved for more than 20 years to be given an opportunity to participate in the federal contracting process. For 2 consecutive years, You have promised us that you would give them that capability. We now want you to deliver against that promise. We now require you to deliver against that promise. And your office, your seat in office now hangs in the balance. Let's see if that bargain, right? Let's see if that deal-making effort has any impact on whether or not you do what's in the best interest of these United States.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And on that note, I would like to give a shout out to Representative David Rouser of North Carolina. He co-sponsored the bill as of yesterday. So a big shout out to the Contract on Veterans Act bill he co-sponsored. So big shout out to Representative Rouser on that effort. And yeah, guys. So if you were the veteran or the patriot that reached out and engaged and got your congressman to co-sponsor that bill, please shoot us a email. The email address will be below. But yeah, please reach out to us so you could participate in this GovCon curriculum that, you know, has over 150 billion in past performance tied to it. But I did want
to, and I want to say two things there. One, the dream is real. I want everybody that's within the sound of my voice to understand the dream is real. Mm-hmm. Right. You know, that's the second edition of a congressman to these bills that have occurred as a result of these actions. Right. We had thousands of our men and women return to Norfolk, Virginia, without additional bombs being dropped in Iran. Right. Because of these actions. So I'm trying to alert you to the fact that we, the people, do still have power. Right. Like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, right? All we have to do is click our heels together and make the command, make the call, make the request. And the request that we're making right now is that our elected officials prove to us, that they demonstrate to us that they are with us, that they are here to do the people's business by giving us a patriotic demonstration of their commitment to the Constitution. And they can demonstrate that, wink, wink, by going out to that little portal that they have in their office, just like the representative that Mr. Hill described a second ago has done, and co-sponsor the bill. You don't have to walk across the mall from the Rayborn building, right, to any other building. You just need to go to a portal in your office and demonstrate your patriotic commitment to these United States of America. Not doing so would be a mistake.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, on a brighter note, seeing the actions, the troops finally coming back, Senate, you know, passed this war power resolution that, do you think these are actually the breadcrumbs, or this is projecting that we are actually really settling down into a business as usual? Or, you know, what are we looking at? Or is this more of a campaign push, political push? Like, what are we actually looking at? A peaceful moment right now?
So let me see if I can capture the question. I want to make sure I capture the essence of the question. And so you're saying that because we're seeing these actions out of the Senate, because we're seeing, you know, some considerations out of the Oval Office, meaning we don't see bombs dropping. Are you asking, have we entered a calm season of potential peace that we can pivot around? Is that the question?
Yes, that's the question. Yes.
You know, the jury is really out right now,
mm-hmm.
Mr. Hill. Right now, we have such political infighting within the Republican Party, for example. You look at the elections that are taking place and some of the political decisions that are being motivated out of the super legislative majority, right? The congressional decision that we had on the voters' right. You know, Mr. Hill, I am concerned that this is only the beginning And if we, the people, don't take charge, if we don't take the authority that's granted to us under the Constitution to stop the bad actors, we're going to find ourselves so far down a slippery slope that we're not going to be able to stop it. You know, I was reminded of this example that I think it was Zig Ziglar had in one of the many motivational tapes that I listened to when I was a kid, of you know, a car parked at the top of a hill in San Francisco, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he asked the question, when is the best time to stop that car from running through the intersection and causing havoc? And the obvious answer to that question is when the car is at the top of the hill, right? If you release the brake and you catch it there, you have the greatest probability of stopping that car. But most people in these political and a lot of these economic processes, they allow momentum to start building up, right? And then they want to run in front of the car and try and stop it. And I'm saying that that would be the wrong thing to do in this instance or situation, right? The decisions that we're seeing to test the boundaries of the Constitution, some of the sheer arrogance that we're seeing from members of the cabinet in front of Congress. Some of the other examples, like this slush fund or the other slush fund that is being used to, I'm not even going to talk about that. I might get myself in trouble if I talk about that. It's some of these actions that we're seeing are clear indications of someone trying to violate and circumvent rules and authority.
Okay, so what are your thoughts? So I saw what was yesterday that the president of Russia met with the president of China the day after we had a conversation. This administration has had a conversation with China. Is it a three-party? Do you think this is the start of a three-party negotiation, or are there maybe who's going to be the supplier to China for oil? How concerned should we be in regards to these actions that we're seeing, or is it just a coincidence that took place, or is it something more malicious going on? Because we know Taiwan is in play, which is a big semiconductor.
You know, they say charity begins at home and spreads abroad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so before we get concerned about what Russia's doing with China and the like, right, we need to get our feces amalgamated right here in these United States of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, we could isolate ourselves off from the entire world and still be able to survive and still be good. I'm not recommending an isolationist policy, but that is the truth of the matter. And so, the ideas of us being the hegemon and us being the police officer across the globe, where we've got to expend enormous amounts of money in defense budgets to protect the rest of the world, those days, I think, maybe have given way to America becoming a kinder, more peaceful, more gentler nation. And I'm saying that to suggest that if we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at will change. And so right now they've got us looking at Russia and China as if they are our adversaries, and we have to be concerned about them, and we have to do a counter move to every move that they do. And I'm saying maybe not so much. Right? If we change the way we look at things, right, we can maybe become the supporters, the suppliers of their efforts to stabilize the environments that they have more responsibility for, right? Because it touches them. Doesn't touch us, touch them, right? Mm-hmm. And so although I hear this stuff that comes out of the popular media, I'm a critical thinker. And so I look at it from a totally different perspective, and I ask the question: is that my battle? Is that my issue? And I would love to have those debates right, with the powers that be or with the, average citizens, because I think that we're at a place where we can reimagine our role on this globe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even to that point, we see that there is a push for that 500 billion to be appropriated for next fiscal year for the National Defense Authorization Act.
And I want you to say that correctly when you say that, right? It's an additional 500 billion, right? In addition to the trillion that's being asked for the defense production, they're asking for an additional 500 billion over the trillion. So it's 1.5 trillion that's being requested to fund the defense effort in
That's a
a
lot of money on the
season.
table.
It's a lot of money on the table in a season where the nature of warfare has changed, right? The kimono has been opened, right? Things are a little bit different, right? This asymmetry to warfare suggests that we need to look at doing things a little bit differently. And so those people that are in the war-making workplace, right, have to rethink whether or not they're going to get those hundreds of billions of dollars, because America knows that they're not going to spend another $40 billion building the next battle frigate that can be destroyed, can be stopped, it can be disabled by a $20,000 drone, right? If we don't rethink our approach to this kinetic process, we're going to have imbalanced investments, and we've got to look at who's getting that money.
Mm-hmm.
We got to look at where that money goes, because then we will start to see what the motivating factors are for some of these actions, conflicts, and events.
One common theme that I've been hearing for the past couple of days, I heard you say it, I heard Ray Dalio say it, follow the money. Follow the money. That's the thing I keep hearing. Now, what does that mean? Is everything, all the energy attraction is always towards where the pot of money at, where the pot of gold is at? Like, what does that mean exactly?
That means that people are greedy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what it means. It means people are greedy. And oftentimes, if you want to see what their underlying intentions are, goals are, all you got to do is follow the trail of money to see, who the usual suspects are and the interdependent relationships that are appropriate and inappropriate that are in existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow the money, oftentimes you can see that there is a relationship between, why this foreign nation, right, visits this particular nation and, shares trade routes and the like. If you follow the money, you can often see what's not reported to you in your popular media. You can often see what's not reported to you by your political leaders.
Yes, sir. And when you said that, what I thought of was, okay, they said the Strait of Hormuz had 20% of the oil, that comes through there. And then I'm thinking like, okay, so if it's only 20% comes there, where is the other 80% coming from? And I say all that to say, it is exactly like you said, that it's probably other routes or other things that we're not thinking about or not being told to us. Or I guess you could say it's a part of the game that's being played. But when you start thinking like, okay, if only 20%, where's the other 80% coming from? Is that something we can tap into that resupply our oil reserves? Is that something that can lower?
Mr. Hill, I'm gonna share this with you and the audience, so that they recognize the nature of what's in front of us. And as I've said on a couple of different occasions, we're not getting the whole story right now. Right now, the American people are not being given a clear picture of what we're addressing and what we're dealing with. And so let me give you an example of what I mean. The oil that traverses the Strait of Hormuz is the least of the concerns that people have. There is an undersea cable that carries over $3 trillion worth of transactions on a daily basis that, if it was cut, would disrupt global commerce. And the Iranians know that they own that cable, and they're holding that cable hostage. So and this was something that was gamed out in the war games prior to going into this particular action, right? But the idea that the Iranians would have the wisdom, the strategic ideations to play these cards was something that wasn't considered. And so right now, the American people need to recognize that, we are looking at a situation where we made an error, right? Our commander in chief made an error. And as I always say, an error doesn't become a mistake unless you don't correct it. So we have an opportunity now to correct our error. And it seems like we've been given some support and some assistance by the universe in terms of how this thing unfolded, right? So, we no longer have those bases in the Middle East that we need to concern ourselves about rebuilding, right? So we don't have to make that investment, right? I mean, there are a lot of natural events that have taken place that make sense for the American people to say, okay, you got it. But I digress, right? Let me not get into geopolitical issues.
I say you dropped the bombshell right there. I knew it was a cable under the water, but I didn't know. I knew it was a fiber optic cable. I thought it had something to do with internet, but you saying that transactions.
What are transactions, right? They're digital zeros and ones that traverse across those digital cables, right? People think that it's, TikTok and, Facebook, and no, right? Those are the transactions that are clearing through the Swift systems, the little thing that you bought from Amazon that just got cleared and went through a Swiss bank and, hit your bank account. All of those transactions are running across that cable as well. All of these are known restrictions. These are known limitations that were in place. And so, again, we're in a place where the nature of warfare, right, has gone from the kinetic to the information, right, to the knowledge realm. And so the idea that we're going to expend hundreds of billions of dollars preparing for a war, stockpiling weapons for a war whose time has gone by, I think the American people have an opportunity to make an investment in that decision, right? I think the American people have a right to make a investment in saying, you know what, I don't know if we need a ballroom. I mean, the Constitution allowed the American people to participate in these kind of decisions, right? In this one, we have the ability to participate in this kind of decision if we engage. So how do we let the Congress know that we don't want them to spend $500 billion or $40 billion on a surface to air missile that can be taken out by a drone? How do we let them know? We engage them. That's why this experiment that Mr. Hill and I are driving is so important, right? Once we get this channel of communication open to our Congress, we have some things that we'd like to share with them. We have some patriotic cotton that we'd like to put in their ear.
Sir, yes, sir. And guys, on that note, I did want to, because I didn't tell you guys Monday, but because the troops came home, mission was accomplished, we decided to go back to our regular schedule of a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So on that note, guys, catch us on Friday as we're breaking down what this veteran radical economic patriotism really means. So on that note, guys, I am Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. We'll catch y'all Friday.